Hello everyone, my name is Mumbles, and this is Killing Floor 2. I did the unthinkable. I made a boo-boo. Actually, kind of two if you really want to get into it. So I'll do a little hacking and whacking and smacking, and then I'll show you what I'm referring to, essentially. But right now, Z time is quite useful for us. So, essentially, I've already played Killing Floor 2 today, but I did it off, recording, and I already did my dailies. And I will show them, and also the current difficulty. Let's kill this guy and then take a little breather. So, if you'll, direct your attention to the screen, the dailies were Biotics Lab on Hell on Earth, which is what we're on right now, and also to kill bloats and to deal damage with the Chris SMG. I ended up doing a little co-op tonight, and I actually did all that, which was kind of wonderful, because I don't think I've done co-op Hell on Earth before, and it actually went pretty well. Turns out, just get a medic, and it just works pretty well. But I figured, I still need to do a recording, and, what's stopping me from inflicting more pain upon myself? As a consequence, we're here, and also, I decided to play Berserker, even though I haven't played it in quite a while, so I don't anticipate that this will go well. Case in point, we just got hit, a couple times without the parry up, and we're almost, entirely dead. So, yeah, that's a problem. But, maybe once we get our hands on some actual, other weapons. Don't get me wrong, Kroval is, not bad, but it's not necessarily what you want to do the whole wave, well, the whole game with, realistically. I mean, we survived, and we can afford some other stuff. But yeah, I decided what I would do is I would give this a shot or two, even though there are now no stakes anymore. We're just kind of doing it for the funsies. I mean, I think the obvious answer here is Hemoclobber. It's still so good. And if we can afford any ammo for it, then we will obviously grab that. Also checking to see if maybe there's more ammo boxes, but there don't appear to be. So basically, I think I'm willing to give this about 2 tries, like the last time I played Hell on Earth. Unless, of course, we see reason to keep going, basically. But that's the unthinkable that I committed. Essentially, I already did my dailies off camera. And I'm hoping that it's not an issue, because, we'll get to make up for it now. I'm pretty sure we'll have plenty of bloats in all the Zets that will spawn. The other thing that I did, that I kind of referred to, is I cheated on my main game. My main squeeze has been Killing Floor 2, in terms of video gaming stuff. I've just been, plugging away at this game, grinding here and there, playing it solo, playing it co-op, playing it with a bigger group. It's just been a wonderful time. But, over the Christmas break, I was given a brand new game that I had been interested in for quite a while, actually. Deep Rock Galactic is the name. I think it's about 2 years old. I'm always late to the party. I'm one of those guys. Man, we are taking a lot of damage, apparently, on this difficulty, which makes sense. We are nerfed Berserker now, and this is, a higher difficulty than when we normally play. Just don't get hit, bruh. Or just do that. And, we can heal a little. That's gonna be a problem, though. I mean, I think we can run away from her, though. But yes, I tried Deep Rock Galactic over the weekend, and I gotta say, man, wonderful game, wonderful game. I'm currently still in, the early stages of it, and I'm essentially trying to figure out how I could go about, recording it. It is a very dark game in terms of graphics, so I need to do, a couple test recordings just to see if I run into the same video artifacting issue that I do with Killing Floor, which I possibly will, to be honest, because I think I need to edit the footage, basically, that I actually record, and go back and boost some stuff in there, maybe change some hues. I'll look into it, though. And, because I gotta say, man, I really like the game. I think it's wonderfully made. I really enjoy it. It's a very chill game, perhaps even too chill, you could make the argument, because so far, in, the less than 4 hours that I've played, I haven't really run into a situation where I've been like, oh no. Which, isn't necessarily, a bad thing. I'm just saying that I don't know if it's going to make for, the most exciting content. I know for a fact that, it could make for the most exciting content, because I could just adjust the hazard level. So we might do that once we get into it properly. But for the time being, I'm just having a grand old time with it, really enjoying the setting. I've always been, a fan of the whole, space fantasy thing. I mean, you know, I'm a big old nerd when it comes to wargaming, and, you know, Warhammer 40,000 is essentially a space fantasy, or fantasy in space, depending on, you know, how you want to describe it, kind of setting. It used to have space dwarves. It doesn't anymore. They used to be called squats. They're kind of gone from the setting currently. We don't really know what's going to happen to them. But, and they were, you know, mostly before my time. I'm not quite old enough to really have first-hand experience with the squats of 40k. But I do like the concept. Dwarfs are just a great concept. And in, you know, Deep Rock Galactic, you get to be a dwarf. What's not to like? I really want to get, like, the Battle Axe, but I think the Ion Thruster is probably the better weapon here. Also, I genuinely think that we're better off, like, getting some ammo for the Hemoclobber instead of getting some armor, because the armor we are essentially guaranteed to lose, and it's very expensive to get. Whereas the Hemoclobber, as we just saw, can kind of get us out of a jam. They have also nerfed the Hemoclobber quite extensively over the last couple of updates. It's still so incredibly good, though, that there are almost no words for it, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. There's, like, exactly one spot on this map that I would say I like, so we're just going to keep coming back to here, because it's my favorite position, probably. Especially as a solo player. Like, they still have 3 entrances, as you can very clearly see, but I don't know. I kind of like it, though. Still feels more controlled than a lot of other positions. And I think one of the reasons why I like this location is precisely because you do have some exits. So if stuff like starts hitting the fan, you can just kind of leave, essentially. There's multiple exits available for that reason. Give me that parry, please. We might just be, like, straight up dead. Yeah, we didn't get to switch weapons in time. That is my bad. That is absolutely my bad. I think we had the right setup there. Oh, I probably should have just switched earlier, and the fact that we missed, like, a couple parries obviously hurt us pretty bad there. Well, I mean, I did say, well, we're going to run it back, so that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's just take it from the top. I still believe that this is probably doable, even with Nerf Berserker. So even if we don't succeed, it's not really, you know, it's not really the current Berserker's fault, as it were. If anything, it's my fault for not having played the perk a lot since the changes. I think I've done, like, maybe two hours, maybe 3 hours of actual playtime with Berserker since they've made the... I wouldn't even call them sweeping changes, just changes, to be honest with you. Like, it's just slightly different now, but it's not, like, all bad. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did, like, a pretty long Endless video, and it worked just fine, to be honest, at Endless. It just turns out you have to have parry at all times, which is kind of what you wanted to have with Berserker anyway. It used to be, in my experience, but again, I didn't play, like, highest difficulty stuff. It used to be you would have the parry up constantly, just so that you would have the optimal damage to deal with stuff. And now it turns out you basically want to have parry up constantly, so that you can actually, like, avoid taking unnecessary damage. It swings and roundabouts, basically, like, you know, wax on, wax off, same difference for all intents and purposes. It is kind of scary, though, that on Hell on Earth you get, like, tagged by a bunch of those guys, and you lose, like, all of your health. Like, you really do need to actually parry. I'm also thinking I don't have Butcher as an ability enabled, and it would give us quite a bit of health regen. So that is something to consider, to maybe strap on there, because I think our damage might get slightly lower, but our survivability will greatly increase. In fact, let me look at that. Oh no, actually, oh yeah, we do have Butcher, but it's Vampire is the one that I'm referring to. So I guess the question is, are we good with losing 20% damage for a little bit of health in between the waves? You know what, I'm going to stick to my guns and just say that we can probably make this work in its current state. We just need to get good, basically. You know, it's the age-old adage. I believe it was the Indians that first said it. Get good. So that's what we're going to try to do. And once again, I think Hemoclobber is kind of the way forward, just because it's so good. Obviously, if we can get a little bit of ammo for it, that's going to be fantastic, because it's basically a get out of jail for free card. I'm just going to move to the other position that I'm a big fan of, which is actually over here. Nearly just went the wrong way. I mean, technically, I just went to the first position if I'd kept going that way. But it's not where I wanted to go. And let's just skip the trader and see if we can get this done. So to be honest with you, I'm willing to, obviously give this another shot over here, and I'm deliberating about a third shot if we fail on this one, because if not with a Berserker, then I think with another perk for sure we can do it. And it's not necessarily because Berserker is so awful now, it just comes down to, like, Berserker is obviously taking a lot of damage, and you kind of can't avoid that anymore. Especially if you chose, if you're choosing to play the perk like I'm doing, which is pure melee. Like, let's be realistic here, I could just buy a nail gun. I could just buy a nail gun and play essentially like a version of support almost. The fact that I'm not doing so is, like, my decision. And perhaps, now the game is more, I guess, like, motivating you to do that instead of doing old Berserker style, which was pure melee. I really prefer the pure melee, though, and I think Berserker should be all about that melee. It's kind of in the name, for me at least. Well, this is a little bit of a problem. Again, I think we're going to have to play it smart and just, like, leave that room, because there's 3 ranged enemies, and they all have very good line of sight to us. So we're going to play it a little smart. Camp some corners. Eliminate some other stuff. Get that sweet, sweet parry. Clear out some things. And again, fall back. Gorfiend dealing massive damage to us. But thankfully, we also dealt massive damage to him. So it's kind of okay. If we can just kill a Siren, like, for free, essentially, that's always a great thing. I wouldn't mind, like, getting a parry, once again, so that we have that extra durability. I thought she was dead. Possibly she was, and it was another one. Wonderful parry. We're just getting it done. Dodge the bloat, for sure, because I know poison on this difficulty is, like, actually insane. Do a little bit of a pop heal and eliminate a group of foes. And now we're just on our merry way, just kiting. This is kind of what I mean, like, with Berserker, the positioning is less important, and this is, I think, one of the reasons balancing it is so incredibly difficult, because with the other perks, there are a lot of perks that are very dependent on what location you're in. Berserker is not one of them. Like, Berserker is a roaming style perk, especially if you have Spartan, especially if you take Skirmisher. Kind of half the point of this perk is that you just go anywhere you want. I think the Siren is still alive. We're just gonna dodge that for the time being. Get the parry and essentially take no damage as a consequence. I could heavy attack this guy, but I'm really, like... I mean, I'm going to heavy attack him. It just makes the most sense. And apparently the Siren died to the poison, most likely. So we're kind of in the same situation that we were in before, where we did a wave 2. We still actually have some ammo left. I think last time we only had a single ammo left, and we can afford some stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but some stuff. I'm once again going to take the Iron Thruster, because I think it is quite good. We can't afford any further ammo, though, so I think we may have used, like, more resources. It's kind of okay, though, because there are ammo boxes now. There is this spot nearby where we can chill out, essentially. It didn't work out for us so well last time. You know what, just at the change of pace, I guess we could run back to the other location and see if that works better for us. They're quite close to one another, and I think, as we saw before, it's going to come down to how actively we can parry, how much damage we can avoid as a consequence, perhaps how quickly we can switch back to the Hemoclobber. I kind of wish you could put, like, one of the melee weapons in primary for weapon switching purposes. I think it would actually make Berserker a little bit easier, but maybe that's just me. I also need to remember not to spam the reload when you have the Iron Thruster, because you actually will just waste the special attack once you have it by doing that. I mean, we're doing pretty good with the parries for the time being. I think we might move into this room, because it might be easier to kite stuff over here. Very happy that I actually got attacked by somebody there. We are getting a little into a bad spot here. Again, if we would be able to get a parry, I would be very happy, but right now I'll take the chance to just reload this so that we have health on demand. We do have our parry bonus, and therefore we're not taking humongously large amounts of damage. And also we're kind of clearing some stuff up. Oh, we definitely should have parried that. I mean, one of those parries would have been great. Still, we can kind of disengage for the time being. Clear these guys. Use the Spartan bonus to get this guy. Switch over. Clear some of the small stuff. I would love to actually talk about like other stuff other than game stuff, but turns out, you know, Berserker less mindless than it used to be now that it's been significantly weakened. Although, like, you know, not to complain, we're doing like relatively good now, but we do have to keep in mind, like, just like that, stuff can go wrong like instantly. We just got like cornered basically. I do still think that crawlers deal like ridiculous damage. Like, we did in fact get killed by one of those elite crawlers, and frankly I didn't even see that guy. Like, that's the most annoying thing. So this is wave 3. Once again, we did a lot better than we did last time. Normally I said you know, we would do 2 tries. I'm kind of thinking of switching to something else just to see if we get farther. Even if we don't succeed, because I don't play Biotic Slab that much these days. Obviously, the funny thing is I played it earlier today, so I should be better at it. But it doesn't quite work that way, in my opinion, because every perk is a little bit different in that regard. Ideally, with any other perk other than Berserker, you would just pick a spot and hold it, and you'd be fine, for the most part. Or if you get overrun, then obviously you're faced with problems. A little bit tempted to try, like, Combat Medic, because I've never played that before. And it is, like, maxed out, so that could be something. But I'm not really sure if that's something that can work out. It's a tough one. You know what? I really wanted to play Demolitionist earlier tonight, but didn't get to. In the end, I went with Firebug, because I kind of believe in the power of Firebug more, I suppose, these days. Don't get me wrong, Demo is still a great perk, and I still think, like, for my skill level, it's still quite useful for the big Zeds, even though a lot of people online are very disappointed with the takedown speed on Demo these days. I'm really not sure about that. Like, I know that there are some great, like, takedowns from other perks, but for me, Demo is still kind of king when it comes to, like, Flesh Pounds, for example. And, I mean, you can easily make the argument that it's also king for stuff like Strix, if you get the RPG and you're accurate enough. Now, obviously, if you have, I was going to say Gunslinger, but Gunslinger is just, I mean, Gunslinger is quite good. I was deliberating on saying Sharpshooter, but Sharpshooter, I think, is one of those perks that is just kind of very weak nowadays. Perhaps, at a certain point, it had, like, a niche with its high single-target damage, but in my experience, it's not so good now. I mean, we just got by Riders, which is not at all surprising, to be honest. I wasn't keeping good enough track of them. So in that regard, it is kind of nice to see that Hell on Earth is still like a pretty high difficulty, and to be honest, I'm kind of happy to see that Berserker is maybe better, just as a generalist perk for this stuff. I do believe we killed plenty of bloats, so there is that. I think what I'm going to do is I might throw a little bit of a pause in here, and just change the difficulty to Suicidal, because I think we could do Suicidal as Berserker. Or at least we can try and essentially see. So I'll get back to you guys with that. I think that should be a little bit more fun, and you know, we'll leave on a high note. At least we'll get a boss kill, hopefully. Alright, we're back, but this time it's Suicidal. And I'm back to Berserker, because that's kind of what I wanted to play in the first place. I suppose you could make the argument that we should try, like, SWAT, considering, you know, we also had the Chris SMG daily. But I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I don't hate SWAT, and in fact, I think the Chris is kind of a decent gun. I used to, like, include it in every single one of my SWAT loadouts, because I believe it is the best DPS weapon for that perk. But I kind of had my fill of SWAT. I played it for quite a bit tonight. Not just because of the daily, because I kind of, like, felt like it. You know, it seemed like a good excuse to play it, so I kind of took the opportunity. But I don't really want to, like, play that now. So if that's okay with you, since I already have the check mark on that daily, I'm just going to enjoy myself a little bit with Berserker. And have a good time. That's kind of what this game is supposedly about. And really, like, what we're trying to do here is ideally get to the boss wave and also succeed at the boss wave. Just to get that little dopamine, you know? get a little bit of satisfaction. I mean, we did just get crushed like 3 times, and I mean, the last one was just comical. Like 2 riders got us in a corner and just murderized us instantaneously. So let's see if we can do better than that. And I mean, I know that we can, to be honest with you, but I also am looking to maybe prove it a little. Or just make this a very hilarious, like, comedy of errors style video and just die horribly 4 times in a row. That could also be a fun time. But we'll see. We'll do our best. Either way. I mean, if anything in this game, I think what holds true is if something seems impossible, you just have to try it a little bit. One complaint that I'm not sure if I've mentioned on, like, recording before, and I think this is maybe something they need to, like, consider if they actually, like, make Killing Floor 3. Hopefully this is something they consider for the next title. I think one of the issues with this game is the fact that none of the previous difficulties prepare you for the next one. A lot of games, especially like action RPGs, which I know is not like a direct comparison in that sense, but for example, like in Diablo 2, the idea is that, you know, you grind your stats high enough to be able to play the next difficulty, so that, you know, you can progress, because the meat of the game is just replaying it, but making it more and more difficult as time goes on. And some shooters have also incorporated, like, elements like that, where essentially New Game Plus, like, the way you prepare for that is obviously clearing the game in the first place. Should probably explodinated that guy, but I didn't want to waste, like, a charge from my Hemoclobber. Dude, it's apparently all, like, husks now. Quite ridiculous. But yeah, I think in my experience, Killing Floor is rather bad when it comes to that, because, you know, the different Zeds get certain, like, attack patterns, and they adopt certain behaviors that you cannot prepare for. Like, if you just play the game for 100 hours on hard difficulty, you're never gonna learn how you're supposed to actually deal with the stuff on Suicidal. The movement speed, the dodges, all of that stuff, you're just never going to be able to pick that knowledge up, basically. And that's, I think, bad design, personally, because it just means that jumping from difficulty to the next difficulty, like, there's a huge gap in between the two there, and it's a very hard transition. Ideally, that's not really what you want, because, you know, if someone goes from hard to Suicidal and they just get crushed over and over and over again, they might just leave your game, which I don't think as a developer you would want, but apparently I'm wrong, because this is a, what, 6-year-old game now, and it's just been like that forever, so what do I know?
Last chance. I have to power down the pod.
You know what? I'll just keep the Hemoclobber. Like, it's quite good. Let's just keep it for the time being. Let's add a little bit of extra challenge, try to do an area. We are max level, max prestige, so, like, this does essentially nothing for us. It gets us the tiniest amount of vault dodge. We can probably dodge these guys. We did a piss poor job, but, I mean, you know, we got through in the end. But yeah, that's like my one big complaint next to the boss rant that I did a couple days ago. You know, I think some stuff maybe was not, like, thought through to the full extent in this game, and I wouldn't say that it's, like, completely awful for it, but again, as someone that just recently tried another game in the form of Deep Rock Galactic, I do think that that game, like, all the features in that game just make sense. Like, you can tell someone like looked at that title and said, you know what, how do we make, like, a really good game that makes sense? I would love to just get any parry, like, at all, but apparently we're just gonna poison, like, a quarter pound, and then he's just gonna waddle off into the distance. And I would also like to go back to the area, so let's actually do that. Let's also kill this lady. There we go. I will say that the poison damage boost on the Hemoclobber, I believe it was given a poison damage boost, is actually more of a nerf than, like, most people realize, because Poison Panic is still so annoying in this game. In my experience, like, Fire Panic is still also bad, but at least the fire damage tends to be a lot better. Poison Panic is just, like, absolute garbage, as it turns out, because the poison damage is usually very, very bad. I mean, it turns out we very nearly died even on Suicidal on Wave 3, so like I said, if anything, it just goes to show that it's more my inexperience with the perk nowadays, like the version of the perk that is currently in the game, than anything else. I'm very curious about one thing, and this is a loadout that I've rocked quite a bit of times in the past, and I'm going to again, whether or not we can do better with the Battle Axe for the final wave. I'm a huge fan of the Battle Axe. I'm one of those mindlessly heavy attacks everything with the Battle Axe guys, because it just makes a huge mess, and that makes me happy. We'll see, to be honest, because it's been quite a while since I played with it, and parry-wise it's not the most ideal weapon. Weapon switch-wise it is not the most ideal weapon. It takes a little while to switch off from it, so we need to be a little cognizant of that fact, but we'll try our best once again. I mean, already we're doing better than we were before, so... The attack speed is something a lot of people get mad about when you just like spam heavy attack, but honestly, for the damage, I'm kind of happy with it. People can say what they want. And if you like have 2 brain cells, which I don't, well, technically I do, but I don't always exhibit the fact that I have them. You know, you can just do like side-to-side slashes and kill multiple hostiles at the same time. I mean, we got like 2. I was hoping we'd get more. I don't know where exactly that siren came from. Once again, the game spawn system goes to show, like, you look away for 2 seconds and suddenly there's 15 guys behind you. I mean, we're doing decent for the time being. Probably should not stand in an Edar's, like, direct line of fire. It's still so astonishing to me just how much damage, like, a rider can deal with his punches. It's truly sickening on Suicidal. I guess we got the Edar. I wasn't paying attention to the kill feed there for a moment. I was also hoping we would, you know, bag and tag this guy a little earlier. Case in point, again, like, Edar's in the perfect positions. Thankfully, we didn't get flanked right here. That could have been actually disastrous.
Finish the last ones off, so I can open
Alright, I mean, we're doing a lot better now. Still, there's a couple, yeah, I was gonna say there's a couple big guys that we haven't accounted for. And they're just, like, knocking us into all sorts of things that we shouldn't get knocked into. We're also missing a bunch of swings that we shouldn't. Can I get away just to heal? Because we're not doing, like, too hot. Once again, the Poison Panic was not really helpful, because if I had actually just gone in for the parry, then possibly I would have just gotten tagged there again by another small Zed and died. I believe there's still another Scrake on the loose. We're gonna try to fight him properly this time. You know, like, actually get the parry on him and then just completely demolish him, instead of, like, panicking and running away. But look, sometimes you gotta realize, like, what's going on and cut your losses. This is one of those things where, like, we can basically upgrade the Hemoclobber once. I don't necessarily think it's the reasonable thing to do, simply because if we get a boss where we need a ranged weapon, then we're kind of obviously gonna be useless. But we're gonna try regardless. I mean, a lot of bosses with Berserker go surprisingly fast once you go into melee. Matriarch is an interesting one because she can obviously also, like, absolutely kill you in close combat with her claws, even in phase 1. Because basically if you stick to melee range, she's gonna keep doing that. But we don't really have an option. You know, we have a 9mm pistol with like 90 rounds. We're not about to try to fight her with that. I'm gonna just try to bait out, like, her melee attack. And then just, like, fight her. Like, try to parry as much as we can, dodge her range stuff, and essentially, like, go through her range phase. Hopefully, by, like, fighting her up close. Right now, we're, like, doing a fine job of it, I think. That was kind of one of those things where, like, had no right to work, but it did. I mean, we got rid of her gun, so there is that. I was really hoping she would do, like, an actual melee. You know what? I don't have to be here. I don't have to take this. I'm just gonna wait in the door over here. One of these days. Like, I just want the parry, man. There you go. I just really wanted that damage bonus. As you can see, I mean, with Matriarch, it's one of those things where on paper that seems like such a terrifying boss fight. In reality, it's actually like completely doable in melee. At least in solo. In co-op, you kind of need somebody to take the heat off of you, in my experience, but it's still doable. There are some bosses where I don't think, especially now with the recent changes, that it would be possible. Like Abomination, I don't really see how you fight with pure melee Berserker, even on like a survival game. In Endless, I would normally say try to pick up a gun for Berserker. Now I would also say maybe consider doing that anyway, even on a regular survival game. But anyway, I mean, look. It's not Hell on Earth with Berserker, but it wasn't supposed to be Hell on Earth with Berserker. It was just supposed to be Hell on Earth. And I did get the check mark, so technically we did the daily, but you know, you guys didn't get to see it. But we did it on Suicidal, and we did it with a perk that I haven't touched in a while, so maybe you had a good time. I hope that you did. I know I did. And I'll see you in the next one.